analyzing theme and techniques in fiction. In today's video, we aim to identify the theme and techniques in a given flash fiction. We also would like to create a 6-word flash fiction at the end of this video. And finally, enjoy the process of creative writing. In our past lessons, we had already tackled the 5 literary genres. Before we proceed to our lesson for today, let's recall these 5 genres first. Are you ready? How about Bonsai by Edith El Tiempo? That's correct, it is poetry. New Yorker in Tondo by Marcelito Angadan Jr. That's right, it's drama. How about this one, Ang Diary ng Pangit, which is a Wattpad? Okay, it is prose fiction. How about this, a food blog? It is creative nonfiction, that's right. And finally, this one, an autobiography. That is correct, it is nonfiction prose. Before we proceed to our literary selection in focus today, let's first have this quote by our author in focus, who is Cecilia Manguera Brainard. She says, "Literature and history are related, but while history documents facts, literature focuses on revealing the soul of people." Notice that literature and history are put together, which means that you can't really separate literature from history or history from literature. But while history is after facts, literature focuses on people's stories. This is Cecilia Manguera Brainard, and she was born after World War II in Cebu, Philippines, so she is a Cebuana. In fact, her mythical setting called Ubek is actually Cebu. Ubek appears in her novels and short story collections. She migrated to the United States to do graduate work in filmmaking at UCLA, but she later turned to writing, which suits her individualistic personality better. Are you familiar with the term diaspora? Modern diaspora is the movement and dispersal of people across different parts of the world at the height and decline of colonization. Cecilia Manguera Brainard is a diasporic writer. What are her challenges as a diasporic writer? According to you, in 2008, straddling two worlds, migrants struggle with the affliction of dual consciousness. They carry with them their own traditions, histories, language, and beliefs, but also need to make sense of their new home. Do you think Cecilia Manguera Brainard also had this certain dilemma as an American or a Filipino-American author? So now, here's the flash fiction which Cecilia Manguera Brainard wrote. The title is A Very Short Story. Your world or your mind does not allow for an afternoon walk to the museum, nor a stop at the chapel for silent prayer, a glass of halo-halo under the ipil-ipil, laughter and stories for old time's sake. It allows for a few hours at the Hilton. Face like stone, you give a false name to the man at the registry, pay in cash, and ascend to the sun-streamed room for an afternoon of sad, hot-blooded lovemaking. Face like stone, you tell your wife, whom you have long ago stopped loving, that you had a late business meeting with some Japanese clients. It's the same story you had left at your office earlier that day. And you wonder why you go about in muted sorrow and anger. Now let's proceed to analyzing the story. Are you ready? 1. Pick out a word or phrase that creates a picture in your head. Alright, can you imagine an afternoon walk to the museum? What can you picture out if it's an afternoon walk? How about a glass of halo-halo under the ipil-ipil? What picture do you have in your mind? Or face like stone? How does that look like? How about a sun-streamed room? Can you picture out the sun getting in through the windows of the room? Or an afternoon of sad, hot-blooded lovemaking? How about pick out a word or phrase that has a deeper meaning than its usual or literal meaning? Is there any word or phrase in the story that could have a deeper figurative meaning? What does it mean to have a face like stone? What does it mean to have a sad, hot-blooded lovemaking? How could lovemaking be sad? Have the third question. Pick out a word or phrase that gives you an idea of the story's location or setting. Can you pick out a word or phrase that is local? How about halo-halo and ipil-ipil? How about the Hilton? Do these words give you an idea of the setting of the story? Let's have the fourth question. Count the number of words that make up the story. And finally, what truth or reality is the story trying to tell its readers? Actually, we were trying to come up with the literary techniques that the writer is using. In the first question, we tried to get words or phrases that try to create pictures in your head. What do you think is that literary technique? That's right, that is called imagery. In our second question, we looked for a word or phrase that has a deeper meaning than its usual or literal meaning. That's right, this is what we call figurative language. And the figures of speech of these words that we have picked out, such as when we say face like stone, is actually a simile. When we say sad, hot-blooded lovemaking are two contrasting words. And don't you think that it's irony? Pick out a word or phrase that gives you an idea of the story's location or setting. Actually, that's what we call local color, wherein the story is in English, but the author chose to write some words in Filipino. Halo-halo and ipil-ipil are Filipino words. By using the term Hilton instead of just calling it a hotel, gives us an idea of the setting. Okay, and if you had counted the number of words of the story, it's actually not as long as the usual short stories that we have encountered before. This kind of very short story is what we call a flash fiction. Now for the last question, which is to ask you what truth or reality is the story trying to tell its readers. Actually, that's already the theme of the story. We're trying to come up with a theme of the story. So let's have these questions to help us analyze deeper. What traces of Brainard's being Filipino can be seen in the story? Do you find any words that give you a clue that she is Filipino? All right, by the use of these local words that we have identified earlier. Okay. How about what is actually happening in the story? What is going on? Don't you think there is some sort of infidelity that's going on? Now, how have the techniques of imagery, figurative language, and local color made the story more striking? Were you able to imagine the story some more because of the descriptive words that were used by the author? Can you picture out deeper? Can you picture out better how a face like stone looks like? Okay. And finally, why is a 125-word story more effective in telling a complicated love story than one with more words or chapters? Do you think the story is made more interesting because it is short as 125 words? Would you have wanted the story to be longer? That is actually the point of a flash fiction. Let's proceed to our writing challenge. But first, are you familiar with this quote or this sample 6-word fiction by Ernest Hemingway? For sale, baby shoes never worn. This is actually the shortest flash fiction that I have encountered myself. So what's really the story behind this 6-word fiction? For sale, baby shoes never worn. What's happening? What's your guess? Okay, you can put that in the comment section below. Another set of examples. Now look, sorry soldier, shoes sold in pairs. Second example, painfully he changed is to was. Third example, we're lying in bed, she's lying. And last, strangers, friends, best friends, lovers, strangers. These are not my original flash fiction, I just got them from Google. You can actually have a lot more examples if you look them up yourself. But for now, these 4 examples are good enough for you to see what 6-word flash fiction looks like. So take a moment to look at these examples, make your analysis, what you think of these samples. You can take your pick as well and put them in the comment section below. Which one do you like better? Or which one do you like best? And what do you think is the story behind that 6-word flash fiction? Just go back to this rubric later on to guide you if you are still following the standards of this simple exercise. That's about it for this task.